In this video, we're making a Thanksgiving themed cocktail, the Turkey Trot.
This is a Teakwood Tavern original that we created to showcase many wonderful Thanksgiving flavors like brown butter, sage, honey, and walnuts.
Now we're going to demonstrate how to make the Turkey Trot, but we're also going to give you a brief background on really the inspiration, which goes back to the whiskey sour and then a play on that, the Gold Rush.
We are Teakwood Tavern Hospitality, educating minds and palates on spirits, wine, and food. The Turkey Trot is a play on the Gold Rush, which in itself is a play on the classic whiskey sour. We're going to walk you through all three, but let's start at the beginning with the whiskey sour.
The whiskey sour is a version of the sour template, which is something that every home bartender should know. For the whiskey sour, you're going to use 2 ounces of your base spirit, so it should be, bourbon or rye, 3/4 ounces of lemon juice, 3/4 ounces of simple syrup. Now, egg white is optional. Plenty of bars choose to use it or go without. We personally, we love the egg white, so we use it for that silky texture and a nice froth on top, but again, it is optional.
I love an excuse for a good egg white cocktail. And the Gold Rush was created at the famed Milk and Honey bar in New York City in 2001. TJ Siegel had the genius idea to swap out the simple syrup with honey syrup, which doesn't seem like that big a deal, but it made a huge difference. It changes the profile of the drink, and there you have it. The modern classic Gold Rush was born.
So when creating the Turkey Trot, we were thinking about the Gold Rush, and it really just came to us like, why not take this a couple steps further? So we turned the honey syrup into a sage honey syrup, and then we converted the bourbon into a brown butter bourbon, and we decided to use a little bit of the black walnut bitters to not only kind of tame some of the sweetness, but also bring in another Thanksgiving fall flavor like walnuts. And again, since we're suckers for egg white, we had to add that in there. But you can see the progression from the whiskey sour to the Gold Rush to the Turkey Trot and how important it is to learn your classic cocktails. Now the Turkey Trot calls for 2 ounces of brown butter bourbon. But let's be honest, if you're gonna go through the hassle of making brown butter bourbon, you're gonna make a little bit extra. So our recipe here is for 2 cups of bourbon and an entire stick of butter. I know that sounds like a lot, but once you strain out the butter, you'll see that really you were just adding the complexities, not necessarily the butter. It's not staying in there. And you can see it actually here right now. This is something that we pre-made. So you begin by taking that stick of butter, cut it into cubes, and then put it in a large skillet at medium high temperature and just continue to stir. That's the real trick with brown butter. Do not walk away. Whenever you walk away, it'll burn. So stay there, slowly whisk it around, keep it moving, and the milk solids will slowly brown together. You know you're doing it right when you start to get the nutty aromas that come in after a couple minutes, and just keep going until you finally reach that point to where it has the aromas that you want, but it hasn't gone so far and burned. And then take it off the heat. Once it's cooled for a little bit, you're going to add it into your bourbon and give it a mix. Walk away for a few minutes, come back, you'll see that the fat has risen to the top. Stir it again. You want to do this walk away stir process at least 3 times. You can do it a few more. And then after that, throw it in the freezer. And it only needs to freeze for 12 hours. It can stay longer, it'll be fine. But at least 12 hours will give it that time to really, blend those flavors of the bourbon and the brown butter. What you get once you take it out of the freezer is this. And you can see all that butter up on top. Now, we're gonna show you how to strain that. And what we have is a funnel going into a clean jar. We have a fine mesh strainer on top of that funnel, and then some cheesecloth. So, great use for a bar spoon. Poke a little hole in the top of that butter. And then we're just going to pour this in. Just slowly Get it in there. Now I know you can't see this, but you can see how the liquid is coming out, and there's still, plenty of butter in there. And then I have the butter that is now sitting in this cheesecloth. Make sure you get it all out. Give it a few seconds, so just let it drip on its own. And then you can speed up the process a little bit by carefully folding over your cheesecloth and then just kind of pressing on that to release a little bit more of the liquid. Be careful, hold your jar so you don't press too hard and then have that spill all everywhere. And really, that is it. And as you'll see, move this. You can see how clear this is, but the aroma, beautiful brown butter. And as a tip, do not throw away this glorious, now butter fragranced, or bourbon fragranced butter. You can use this, you can see it kind of breaks into little beads, for anything. We've actually been using it lately even just to cook fish, because why the hell not? So that is how to make brown butter bourbon.
Let's make some sage honey syrup. First, we always recommend you weigh your ingredients versus using a measuring cup. It's much more accurate. For this recipe, we'll be using 100 grams of honey, 100 grams of water, and 10 grams of sage. First, you need to make a sage-infused water by boiling your water. Add the sage as you remove it from the heat. Stick your lid on it, let it steep for 30 minutes. And when you're ready, prepare your 100 grams of honey. At that point, you'll actually only need 64 grams of the sage water. You're gonna lose some due to evaporation, and you wanna make sure you keep to our classic Teakwood Tavern honey syrup recipe of 100 grams of honey to 64 grams of water. So I'm going to add my 64 grams of water. And then seal it up. We love these squeeze bottles. They make everything super easy when it comes to syrups. Seal it well, give it a good shake. And it's important to use syrups just because cold drinks with like sugar and honey, often those things will just sink to the bottom, but here, now you can stick it in the fridge and whenever you need it, it's ready to go.
After all that, let's make a turkey trot. So we have our brown butter bourbon, we have our sage honey syrup, fresh lemon juice, black walnut bitters, and an egg white, which of course is optional. Let's begin. We're gonna go with 2 ounces of brown butter bourbon. We then have 3/4 ounce of the sage honey syrup, followed by 3/4 ounce of our fresh squeezed lemon juice, 3 dashes of black walnut bitters, and then our egg white. Now, when using an egg white, we prefer to follow the dry shake method, which is to not include ice on the first shake and shake vigorously. So that is what is going to create the foam. Now bring that back to the small tin. Add some ice. And if you weren't using egg white, you would have just added the first 4 ingredients, ice, and then shake as we're about to right now. But since we use the egg white, we wanted that dry shake before we go to this wet shake. 12 shakes. All right. Now, we're using a Hawthorne strainer for this cocktail. We had our glass chilling. But because of the egg white, we're also going to double strain through a fine mesh strainer just to make sure there's no clumps of egg that get in there. So here we go. Pour out most of the liquid to begin, but then save a little bit to make sure you can kind of shake it around, because really your foam is always kind of the last stuff to come out. See that? Beautiful. Now, let me move a few of these things out of your way and get a better look. We have our garnish, which is a fresh sage leaf. As with any other fresh herb, give it a smack to release some of those oils. Set that there on top. You can see already that lovely egg white foam. And there you have it, folks. That is the Turkey Trot. Happy Thanksgiving. We hope that you enjoyed learning about the Turkey Trot cocktail. If you head to our website, teakwoodtavern.com, we have a write-up on a few other additional Thanksgiving Day cocktails, as well as our Thanksgiving Day wine pairing guide.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Teakwood Tavern, here. If you want to see another video like this one for a Thanksgiving cocktail, click here.